Okay, so today we're going to talk about simplifying variable expressions. Now the first vocabulary term is really important. It's called terms. And terms of an expression, I always tell people to think of a train like the cars are linked together by the tow hitch. And so a term is all of those cars, okay? And what connects terms together are either addition or subtraction signs. So in this example, 3x squared plus 5x plus 7, there are 3 terms, and I've highlighted them in yellow. A coefficient of a term is that big number in front. So in the term 3x squared, the 3 is a coefficient. Or in the term 5x, the 5 is the coefficient. So it's the number in front of the variables. Now a constant term is just a regular plain old number. So for example, the 7 is the only constant. It's just a plain number. Now like terms is when we try to match exactly. So if I have 4r squared plus 6r plus 8 plus 3r, I look for what matches. And notice how the 6r and the 3r match. And when I say match, the variables match exactly. So 6r plus 3r makes 9r. And then I just write it in order. 4r squared plus 9r plus 8. So let's take a look at example 1, identifying the parts of an expression. It says identify the terms, the like terms, the coefficients, and the constant terms of the expression 5 minus 2x minus 3 plus x. Well, the first thing we're always supposed to do is write the expression as a sum. That means if you see any subtracting, you should add a line and change the sign. So I wrote 5, and where I saw minus 2x, I added a line and changed the sign. So it's plus negative 2x. And then where it was minus 3, I added a line and changed the sign, plus negative 3. And then plus x. But I want you to notice something here. Notice with my red, in my class I always use red to make things visible that are invisible. And so I want you to get used to, if you see a letter all by itself, there's an understood 1 in front of it. That just means there's 1x. Okay, so now the second thing is we identify the parts. And then here they made the note. Note that because x is the exact same thing as 1 times x, the coefficient of x is 1. Okay, so let's take a look at the terms. And those are the cars, like the box cars on a train. So I see 5 is a term. I see the negative 2x is a term. It's attached by a plus sign. I see the negative 3 is a term, and I see the 1x is a term. So there are a total of 4 terms. Here I see like terms. That means they match exactly. So notice how the negative 2x and the 1x match because they have the exact same variable. Well, also the plain old numbers match. The 5 and the negative 3 match. Okay, the coefficients are the numbers in front of the variables. So I see a negative 2 in front of the x, that's one coefficient. And I see that invisible 1 in front of the x, that's the other coefficient. The constant terms, remember, are the numbers, the plain old numbers, and that would just be the 5 and the negative 3. Okay, go to the checkpoint. Now this checkpoint wanted you to do all that identifying, and I think it's far more important that you just learn to simplify, okay, please. So take a look at number 1. It's 4y minus 6 plus 3y. And so you want to make sure that you put together anything that matches. And I see a 4y here, and I see a 3y here. They match, the variables match, so I add them together. 4y plus 3 more y's make a total of 7 y's, and then I just copy the minus 6. Now remember, I cannot go any farther because the 6 doesn't have a y, so it doesn't match, and that's where we stop and highlight our answer. Okay, take a look at number 2. 9 plus w minus 5 minus 8w. Well, notice how I wrote it, and then anywhere I saw a subtraction, I added a line and changed the sign. And in front of the 8w, I added a line and changed the sign. And now I just try to match things up. So I matched up the w's. There's 1w plus negative 8w. Well, positive 1w plus negative 8w makes negative 7w. And then I put my addition sign, and now I matched up the constants, the plain old numbers. So 9 plus negative 5 would make positive 4. So I end up with negative 7w plus 4. And I cannot go any farther because the 4 doesn't have a w. Okay, so here we're going to simplify an expression. So they give us 5m plus 8 minus 3m minus 7. So notice the first thing I did was I added a line and changed the sign anywhere I saw subtraction, okay? And then they just showed you they rewrote it. 5m plus 8 plus negative 3m plus negative 7. All right, and now we want to match the whatever matches. So notice how the 5m and the negative 3m match. They both have the same variable, so we put them together. And then the 8 and the negative 7 match because they're both constants, so we put them together. And so 5m plus negative 3m makes positive 2m, and then I put my addition sign, and 8 plus negative 7 makes positive 1. So I get 2m plus positive 1. And I cannot go any farther because the 1 does not have an m after it. Okay, take a look at example 3. Now we're going to simplify expressions with parentheses, which means you're going to see the distributive property. So notice that there's a 3 on the outside, and then in parentheses, x plus 2. So circle your 3 and draw the rainbow to the x and the rainbow to the 2. So the first thing I did, follow the rainbow. 3 times x gave me 3x, and then I copied the plus sign, and then follow the rainbow. 3 times 2 gave me 6. And then I copied the minus x and the plus 9. Now since it was minus x, I added a line and I changed the sign. But remember, anytime you see that variable all by itself, put that giant 1 there so you can see it. And then you match things that are like terms. So I would put the 3x together with the negative 1x because they match. They both have an x. So 3x plus negative 1x makes 2x. And then I copy the plus sign, and then I put together the constants. 6 plus 9 gave me 15. So I have 2x plus 15, and that's as far as I can go because the terms don't match. Okay, take a look at B. Now, it's 2k minus 5 times the quantity k plus 4. Before I do the rainbows, I want you, see that minus in front of the 5? We're going to add a line and change the sign. So make it plus negative 5. And now circle that negative 5 and draw a rainbow to the k and a rainbow to the 4. So watch, I have to copy that 2k in the front. That was not part of my circle. That wasn't what I was distributing. So put 2k and then copy the plus, and now do the distributive property. Negative 5 times k gives me negative 5k. Put the plus sign, and now negative 5 times 4 gives me negative 20. Now look for like terms. I see positive 2k and negative 5k. They match, so I'm going to put them together. A positive 2 plus a negative 5 makes negative 3, so I have negative 3k plus negative 20. Or you can use the definition of subtraction and write it as negative 3k minus 20. Okay, so take a look at example C. We have 5a minus, and then in parentheses, 5a minus 7. Now, I see that minus in front of the parentheses, so I'm going to do that trick. I'm going to put that giant invisible 1 here so that I can see it, and then I'm going to add a line and change the sign. So I copy the first 5a right here, okay, or right here, sorry, and then I'm going to circle the negative 1 and draw a rainbow to the 5a. So negative 1 times 5a gives me that negative 5a, and then I copy the plus sign, and then do the rainbow. Negative 1 times a negative 7 makes a positive 7. So I get 5a plus negative 5a plus 7. Well, I match the things that match. So I see here's an a and here's an a. So 5a plus negative 5a actually makes 0a plus 7. Well, you're not finished here. What is 0 times anything? Isn't that 0? So I have 0 plus 7, and of course 0 plus 7 just gives me 7. So sometimes the variables destroy each other. That happens. Okay, take a look at the checkpoint. simplifying the expression. Look at number 3. I have 4y minus 6 plus 3y. So I see that the 4y and the 3y, they match. They both have y's. So 4y plus 3y gives me 7y. And then I just copy the minus 6. Now I could have added a line and changed the sign in front, but it means the same thing. 7y minus 6. Okay, take a look at number 4. I have 9 plus w minus 5 minus 8w. So I put that giant invisible 1 in front of the w, and then where I see subtraction, I add a line and change the sign. Where I see subtraction, I add a line and change the sign. So I have 9 plus 1w plus negative 5 plus negative 8w. So match up the w's. So I have 1w plus negative 8w gives me negative 7w. And then 9 plus negative 5 gives me 4. So I have negative 7w plus 4. Take a look at number 5. I see that it's 4 times the quantity x minus 1. So I add a line and change the sign in front of the 1. And then it's minus 2x. So I add a line and change the sign. So it's plus negative 2x. And then it's minus 7. So I add a line and change the sign. So it's plus negative 7. Now, I'm going to circle my 4 outside the parentheses and do the distributive property. Draw the rainbows to the x and to the negative 1 and follow the rainbow. 4 times x gives me 4x. I copy the plus. 4 times negative 1 gives me negative 4. And then I just copy the rest of the problem. Plus negative 2x plus negative 7. And now I match up the x's. So I have 4x plus negative 2x. That gives me positive 2x. And then I match up the constants. Negative 4 plus negative 7 gives me negative 11. So I have 2x plus negative 11, or you can use the definition of subtraction, 2x minus 11. Okay, take a look at number 6. So I have negative 6 times the quantity k plus 3 plus 5k. So I circle my negative 6 and I draw the rainbow to the k and the rainbow to the 3. And then follow the rainbow. Negative 6 times k gives me negative 6k. I copy the plus. Negative 6 times 3 gives me negative 18. I copy the plus 5k. And then I match them up. Negative 6k matches 5k. So add them together. That gives me negative 1k plus negative 18. Or I can write it as negative k minus 18. And notice how that 1 in front became invisible. That happens sometimes.